Hello again everyone, and welcome to joining us again in the middle of our series I've entitled 66 Books. 66 short podcasts that look at the 66 books of our Bible. And today you've reached the book of Titus, the book of order in the church. Titus is considered by many to be a priceless and unrivaled manual of straightforward pastoral advice. 500 years ago, Martin Luther said this is a short epistle, but yet such a quintessence of Christian doctrine and comprised in such a masterly manner that it contains all that is needful for Christian knowledge and life. The author is declared as Paul in Titus chapter 1 verse 1. The early church record supports that view. So who was the book written to? Well, 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus form a group of what are called the pastoral epistles. They were written during the same period in Paul's life, and all of them dealt with the same error. It is equally clear that they were all written after the book of Acts closes. We know that after the events of the closing chapter of Acts, that's Acts 28, Paul went to Ephesus and then to Macedonia, probably to Philippi. After that he journeyed to Crete, where he left Titus to continue the work there. Apparently he next travelled to Corinth, where he wrote this letter to Titus. From there he went on to Spain, and on the return trip he was arrested. Now if that scenario is correct, and frankly other itineraries are possible, the date of Titus is roughly the same as 1 Timothy, in other words, it's 62 AD. You see, the churches on the island of Crete were in need of organization. That's why Titus was left there, and we know that from chapter 1 verse 5 of this book. There were also other things that needed to be set in order. Jewish teachers needed to be reprimanded, we're told in verses 10 and 13. These were the ones again who are mentioned in Timothy, who were going to the genealogies of the Old Testament and constructing fables around them. And from these myths they drew commandments which turned people away from the truth of God and moved them towards legalistic man-made rules. Furthermore, their motives for doing this were wrong, and the results of it were not honouring God. Their motive was financial, we will discover. Their ministry produced disputes and arguments amongst them all the time, mainly about the law, and as well as that, it even destabilized households, divided households against one another. This community on Crete definitely needed instruction in godliness and good works. So the message of Titus is how to have order in the church. It is clear from Titus chapter 1 verse 5 that Paul left Titus in Greece in order to set things in order, and this book is a follow-up to encourage him and to tell him how to do that. The message of Titus is putting things in order involves doing things like ordaining elders, people who will oversee that the word is taught, because it is by doing that that you will see the production of godliness and good works. So the structure of the book follows the format, roughly, of an ancient letter, except on this occasion there's no thanksgiving or prayer, and in the main body of the book Paul just gives commands, 3 commands in fact, and he follows each with the reason for doing it. So what was the purpose of this book? Well, there are perhaps 2 main purposes. The first purpose of Titus was to instruct the person who it was written to. The church on the island of Greece was in a real mess. Jewish teachers were teaching things that, as it says in Titus 1:11, that they ought not to teach, and their mouths needed to be shut. Consequently, the people needed instruction in truth to unlearn what they'd learnt, and in order that they could produce godliness and good works. Paul wrote Titus to tell him to put the church in order. He was to ordain leaders, elders, and he was to refute these Jewish teachers. He is to speak about godliness to each group of people, both young and old, within the fellowship, and remind them all to maintain their striving towards good works. The second part of Titus is to impart personal information to Titus himself concerning 2 people, Zenos and Apollos, and to inform Titus of Paul's decision to spend the winter at Nicopolis. The letter notified Titus that Paul was planning to send people as well, either Artemas or Tychicus, to replace him, because he wished Titus to come back and join him where he was. So to summarize this book, Paul wrote to Titus quite simply to instruct him to set things in order in the churches that he had left him in charge of, and to inform him also about a few personal matters. Elders were to be put in place to see that the word was taught, because it is that would produce godliness and good works. As a result of the healthy teaching of the word of God, there will always be godliness and good works, and that should resonate with us right down through the 2,000 years of church history to us this very day.